I'm here to present Leadership Styles, Intergalactic Leadership. When you saw in the program for this presentation, it was going to be myself and Cheryl Mankey previously. She unfortunately had an unexpected commitment, so she sends her apologies, but her Jedi spirit's with me today as we do this overview. So Emily will be assisting me during this presentation. Along with the presentation, we get to watch a few video clips tied into the different leadership styles. So we talked about it a little bit this morning with Rick's presentation of where the leadership styles come into play, and it's really around talent. And Rick summed it up very nicely, the things we'd want to look at, because in every organization, we want to look at three different things. Those generational issues we may need to accomplish and overcome and be successful in, the vacancies and changing priorities within our own organization, and also succession planning. What does that really look like in your organization? What are some ways that we want to promote positivity as we do those things? So today, let's talk a little bit about what we're going to cover. So, do I need to have a, oh, it's cool. I'll just maybe point like this and I'm going to harness all the Jedi technology. So I will keep a copy of the slide deck in front of me and then I will channel it to you. All right. So we talked a little bit about the changing future of procurement. So yes, there's a shift in the air. You know, we're moving to a more creative, solution-oriented environment, human-centered, really looking at focusing on the people. We talked a little bit earlier today about taking the I out of it as a leader. It's about we, the team. We want to really focus on the people we bring into our organization and promote that. There's no more just saying no. This is a team approach. We want everyone to collaborate with us to accomplish goals. And then we want to use critical thinking. We want to have the staff to empower them to do those things. And so to do that, we need to become Jedis. So let's talk a little bit about what we're going to cover today. So we're going to compare the two different styles. Now, I love Star Wars movies. I've seen every single one of them. And I know many people get into them much more than I do. So I tried to find the best way to conflict both, contrast both the styles. So the best way I could sum it up was to look at it as a Jedi style. And then we'll call the other side of the extreme to be the Sith style. Because we know on the other side that's not a Jedi. That organization has evolved through their organization over time. It's never been the same thing. It's been the Empire, the Republic, whatever you want to call it. But there's some similar traits regardless of that organization and how they function. So we're going to compare and contrast those two styles. We're also going to talk about how do we look at our own leadership style. Also, where to focus your efforts to have that Jedi leadership style. And then in your current culture, how do you hire Jedis? What are you looking for? How do you do that? And what if your culture already exists and you have stormtroopers? What if they were brought in a Sith regime and you have to work with the stormtrooper in your environment? So let's talk about the two different styles, Jedis and Siths. Well, Jedi Masters, positive and calming. That's the demeanor you want to project. Inner intuition and empathy. You're collaborative, you bring people into your space. Use the art of questioning. Facilitate to get results. Humble inquiries. You're empowering the staff to give you solutions versus you being the leader, giving them the solution. And the results are typically supported by everyone that's involved. It's a team approach. It's no, I am the leader. I'm telling you what to do. Everyone's giving you that input. And you create a harmonious team family culture to bring those goals together. The team, common goals, common purpose, common accomplishment. Now, how do we look at what a Jedi leadership style looks like? Well, I did some research through my binge watching, and Cheryl did as well. We came together and we decided, let's put the first clip out there to give a good overview. What does a good Jedi leader look like? So we're going to queue up a video just to give you what does a Jedi leader look like, and we'll put this clip out and I'm going to tell you some of the things that you see in the Jedi leader.
I'm sorry to disturb you. What else do I need? Obi-Wan? I'm looking for a plan to start with my own front. I trust him, but the systems don't show the archive maps. Lost a planet, Master Obi-Wan has. Our embarrassing. How embarrassing. The mistakes. Gather around the map here. Hear your minds. It's like Obi-Wan's favorite planet to be with. It ought to be here, but it isn't. Gravity is pulling all the stars in the area towards this spot. Gravity's correctly named, but the star and all the planets disappear. How can this be? That's why. Anyone? Master? Because someone erased it from the archive. Truly wonderful the mind of a child is. The Padawan is right. Go to the center of gravity and find your planet. You will. The data must have been erased. But Master Yoda, who could enter information in the archives? That's impossible, isn't it? Dangerous and disturbing this is. Only a Jedi could have erased those minds. But who and why? Harder to answer.
So, Jedi leader, Yoda, his coworker comes in. Yoda, I lost my planet, my file. I need to find it. Yoda probably already had some ideas of where to look for that. We did two great things well as a Jedi leader. His team needed to help him find that planet. But what he didn't do is say, I am going to have my team go figure that out. And then he didn't walk over to his Jedis and says, hey, you guys go find that planet. You noticed when they asked how to find the planet, Yoda said, we're going to go ahead and do that. So he did it as a team. They all did it together. And you could tell Yoda had a kind of an idea of what was going on there. But he asked his team to give him some input of where they thought the challenge would be. How do we find this planet? They all gave him input, really embodying those humble inquiry, asking questions to his team to really get that buy-in and help their customer get the end result. So that's an example of what you'd want to look at as a Jedi leader. We want to bring in our team to make them part of what we're working on, what we're doing. Let's look at the other side of the equation. Let's say the extreme of that different culture, the Sith leader. Well, what does that look like? Well, they use authority, position, force, power, or directives to get things done. They have the solution in mind to solve problems for all of the work. They already know the answer. Don't need team buy-in. We're going to use control and use fear. Well, what would that look like in a work environment? I wonder if there's a Sith example out there that would work. Let's take a look.
Your sad devotion to that ancient religion has not helped you conjure up the stolen data tapes, or given you clairvoyance enough to find the rebels' hidden fortune.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Enough of this. Vader, release me.
As you wish.
Do you think there's any workforce issues there in that agency? They may have a lot of turnover there. They probably don't feel very supportive of their management. Now, granted, that employee was maybe being a little insultive to Boss Vader's beliefs. His response probably wasn't very supportive of his employee either, though, I'd have to say. So I imagine that gentleman is probably not looking long-term staying within that agency. So why do we want to look at the different ways we're going to engage our culture and our employees? What's the differences? Well, We want capable staff. We want to draw that out of them. So to be able to do that, we can't tell them how to do it. We want to work with them to do that. Prompting questions, humble inquiry. You know, ask the question, see what their input is. It'll direct you to a solution. Ask about the problems and obstacles. Your role as that leader, being part of that team, you're there to be there supportive with them. What are the barriers to success? Be there with them through that journey. They'll get there on their own and get there for their own solution. Every one of us has gained our own experiences by being one of the doers that made those things happen. So, trust and improve results. Employees motivated by coaching don't need the hammer. The hammer you can only get hit with a hammer so many times. We all want to be treated like professionals. We all work hard. We all want to be above the bar, right? Demonstrate real trust, improve culture and performance. We want to align and create an environment for creativity and deal with performance management in a positive light. So, if you think about it, what could really be a separator? Ego. Ego is not a bad thing. You have to have it. Whether you're a Jedi or a Sith, ego is important. But it's about striking the right balance. To build your culture, you have to be aware of it at all times. And you have to acknowledge when you need to be present in the moment to know when your ego may get the best of you, even as a Jedi. You want to balance it out. Because we all have it, but you can't not lean towards it, because if you don't have ego, you'll be indecisive. Even as a Jedi, you have to have a level of ego to be decisive so you can help be part of your team. So you can have way too much ego. So too much ego, no respect and loyalty, no teamwork, and no contribution of others. They'll know it. Now, ego, as we all have it, there are some people, they have so much, it doesn't matter how much coaching they may get, it's just who they are intrinsically. Now, bad leaders with a lot of ego can really not build that Jedi culture you want. And when we created this presentation originally, this clip I'm going to show you next really started the building of this presentation because it was such a bad example of leadership. On multiple levels, this was like a good organization where these two leaders at two different levels had so much ego for themselves, they worried about their own accomplishments. So this next clip I'm going to cue up is called My Achievements. Watch.
I believe I owe you an apology, Director Crick. Your work exceeds all expectation.
You tell the Emperor.
I will tell him his suspicions of your misadventures that be rewarded with a weapon that will bring a swift end to the That was only an inkling of its destructive potential. I will tell him that I will be taking control over the weapon I first spoke of years ago, effectively. Stand here against my achievement, not yours! I'm afraid recent security breaches have taken down your inadequacy as the military director. To think this pilot acted alone, he was dispatched from the installation of Edo. Gaining our service facility.
So, I think we see two very egotistical leaders here in this clip. They're both worried about whose achievements are more important. Here's the important thing about this. So there's acknowledgement and recognition, two very important pieces. They're separate. This scene was about an accomplishment that occurred. Who gets the recognition? This great Death Star was created. The project's done. They argue over who gets to take the credit for it. They both worried about whose accomplishment it was. You notice in the clip there's at least, I don't know, about 10 other people standing around during this dialogue. I'm pretty sure when that Death Star was built, it wasn't those two that built that entire thing. It's probably the other people sitting in the room. So if you're one of those teammates, they're worried about the end, but what was the acknowledgement as that project was put together? I'm pretty sure everyone in that room helped build that Death Star. Was there acknowledgement along the way to that got to that final recognition that that project was complete? Out of today, that was the one thing I would tell you to take away from this. I'd want to share. I'd hope that my goal is to say, always remember that there's acknowledgement and recognition. The difference is that acknowledgement should be happening daily as that project is put together. The recognition should be the final result. But if you wait to do the recognition at the end, you've missed supporting your team through that entire process. So always think about the acknowledgement that needs to take place for those teammates that really helped you achieve those goals within your team. So we talked about ego, that you can't be without it. There is a right balance to it. You can have ego, and you will have it no matter what. To be a Jedi, you still have to be decisive. You still have to make decisions. You still have to have tough conversations with your team sometimes. So you have to be confident in your abilities and your decision making. So here's an example of a Jedi moment where they had to have a difficult conversation.
The council does not distribute business moved by Chancellor Palpatine. I understand.
You are on this council, but we do not grant you the rank of master.
What? How can you do this? This is outrageous. It's unfair. How can you be on the council and not be master? To the speak, young Skywalker. Forgive me, master. We have failed all citizens.
So the Jedi Council did have to have a difficult conversation with one of their teammates. They wanted a level of respect for their role and what they were hoping to accomplish. They had an employee that disagreed, but they still could not be undecisive in how they approached that. So you have to have the right balance. The difference is, it wasn't that they wanted to have recognition for what they were doing, but they wanted them to be part of their team and follow what they were hoping to do together as a group. So you still have to have that right balance. So a leader influences and inspires the uninspired. A boss threatens and bullies the uninspired. Jedi, Sith. So I think no matter what, you have to ask yourself this daily. To be a Jedi, you always want to make sure you stay true to what your value is. When your staff come to talk through things, do you talk or listen and question? Do you tend to tell your staff how to solve problems or ask? Is it telling or asking? Are your staff trusted with decisions? Can they test new ideas? Is it okay to make mistakes? Is your culture safe, fun, and inspiring? Do you monitor staff breaks or pause to go, or pause and go on long walks with them instead? Is your staff self-motivated to work extra time? Do they do heavy lifts together to get things done? So those are things you need to ask yourself all the time. You want to make sure you're really there to support them. So Forbes, in an article of 10 ways to lead like a coach, they started with this. Empathy, curiosity, and listening go hand in hand with being a good leader that gets results. So this style tends to be very effective. Empathy, curiosity, listening, that's engagement, that's support. So how do you do that? Well, I think in the question to that is the word do. I think as a Jedi, I always, Yoda always says, do or do not. There is no try. Your culture should be about doing. Have a team that are doers. They want to step in. They want to do new things. They want to be the ones that own it, that do the work. Take away try. Use the word do in everything you approach and not use try. Doing shows a path towards success. So the power of positive leadership. 7 ways you can do this. Love and accountability. You need both. Demand without being demanding. A true trick of a Jedi. Unite the team. Connect with the individual. Create clarity and generate focus. Lead with optimism. Inspire with vision and purpose. So, demand without being demeaning or demanding is a talent that you have to refine as a Jedi. You want to still work towards a common goal and objective, but that's not telling them. You want them to buy into the idea. You want them to do it without knowing that without making them feel like you're setting the direction and forcing them that way, right? You're there with them. You're going along with them on that journey. Positivity in a stressful world. Well, being positive in a negative situation, it's not naive, it's leadership. How do you find those Jedi types? Well, it's always fit first. It's not the technical skills. What are those qualities you're looking at in an employee that's really going to fit your culture? If you're building that Jedi culture, what are those type of employees you want to have that buy-in to where you're hoping to be? Maybe doing a personality style test. There's a lot of different ones out there. Really figuring out where their focus is, where their strengths and weaknesses are as a candidate of where, are they an analytical person? Do they like process? I think you need a balance of different types of teammates to really fill those roles. And then have your customers and team be part of that interview process, maybe putting some of them on the first round of your panels. That way you really get that feel from your support staff and the people that you're doing focus and support for your customers, to really know those people you're bringing into your organization are a fit for the support that they expect from you as an organization. And people say, check social media. Are they worth hanging out with? Are they the people that you want into your group that really fit with the rest of your teammates? So we all know what happens when you don't, because personality sets the tone. Build your empire, your Jedi empire. Succession planning for the future. Always hire for the future. So you always have to keep that in mind. What is the succession plan? We talked a little bit about that earlier this morning too, about putting together training plans, looking at what is the focus that you want each employee at the different staff levels to do. Because there's a challenge if you don't, right? Talent is very hard to acquire, especially in our field, and it's very competitive. So you could have a lot of gaps within your teams if you have a lot of employees that are leaving your organization because it's not a good cultural fit. So really looking at what are you basing your promotions on? Because if you don't have a very good succession plan, you won't be keeping your employees within your organization. I got a great example of what a bad one looks like. The CIS don't do a very good job of hiring, by the way. Let's take a look.
Peter, the future group that like speaking with preparing to run.
You have failed me for the last time. Captain Beard. Yes, sir. Make ready to land our troops beyond their engineering and avoid the fleet so that nothing gets off the system. Good luck. And now, and yet. I know that.
Yeah. Yay, I got promoted. I'm pretty sure Admiral Dietz not really raving about his promotion he just got. Because I think it's a real good sign in your organization if you haven't seen a lot of upward progression in your employees, especially if you haven't set that up, right? Because in this example, the person that was in that position got taken out. And the way the person got promoted was he was just thrown into the job. I'm pretty sure he's gonna have a pretty short life cycle in that position, right? What is this path to success? What does it even look like? What was it supposed to be successful moving forward? I'm going to see there's probably a lot of turnover in that position, right? And if you think about a Sith culture, there isn't a lot of longevity to that culture, right? They probably see a lot of turnover at every level, right? If you think about it, I'll go into a little movie nerddom here. If you think about the Sith culture through the Star Wars world, you had the Empire, you had the Republic. There were different leaders. They only had like their one person underneath them, but they never really sustained that culture. It was replaced over time. They never really built people within their organization to really succeed. Look at the Jedi Council. The Jedis, through that life of it, always built up their team. They shared that knowledge. Yoda touched many people. He gave information to Obi-Wan Kenobi. He worked with Luke Skywalker. Even Qui-Gon Jinn, I'm sure I said his name wrong, sorry, real Star Wars aficionados, but he really shared that knowledge with many different people, and look how they passed that knowledge on within all the different people they interacted with in their teams throughout the years. You can't say the same in the Sith organization. They really went through their employees very quickly, got rid of and didn't really help them succeed or even transition out of the organization. They had a really bad outboarding process, as you see. So, now, in any organization, you're going to have people that have a Sith mentality, or even a stormtrooper. Stormtroopers are effective. They do help your organization. You have to see what their talents are too, and how you roll. As a good, successful team in your culture, you want to support the stormtrooper too. They have a very important role towards your success. When working with them, though, you have to understand, what are they looking through? What are they seeing in their lens? You may have a Jedi culture, but they may be new to your organization. They may be used to that traditional top-down style, so you'll have to adjust with them, work with them on that. They expect staff to conform and respect, so you may need to have a lot of interactions with them to help them understand your culture, that you want more of their input, more of their skills and abilities to help you reach your goals. You're not expecting to get done through directives. You want them to help you meet that end goal. And and they're used to having no room for diverse actions or thinking. So you want to promote and support them when they do make those decisions, or really let them know their course is correct. You do want them to have those abilities to give you that input. Stressful situations, as the Jedi leader, stay positive. Lean on another Jedi. Where do you find those Jedis? We're all here. We have people to lean on now. We know who our fellow Jedis are. Lean on them, ask their opinion. They've been through a lot of the same things you have. You want to support each other. Get a fresh perspective. Sometimes your path may not be the best one. Bring others in that have been down this path before. Eat protein or chocolate. And as a leader, you can be a leader at any level. You can be part of changing your culture to get it to that Jedi environment. Model the way you want others to follow. Show that this is the way you want others to be part of what you have. Confirm the vision and goals correct. This is when people are giving you that input and following the way you want to be treated or how you expect others to be treated. Confirm when others are doing that with you. And let the team make the decision on the path to get there. If you have doers, if you're always going to be doing, let those things happen. They're being part of that decision. This quote's great. John Quincy Adams. If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. So you can do it. It doesn't matter what your title is, as we've been talking about during this day today. A leader does those things. You dream, learn, inspire others to do the same. You're leading. We know this. A Jedi can defeat any army, clones, new republics. The Jedis can band together, work together. It's all about that teamwork. There's no I, it's all we. So I want to wrap all of it and put it together to really get in that perspective of, as we think about those things, of recognition, acknowledgement. The acknowledgement comes first, then the recognition. The acknowledgement happens every day before you get to the recognition. In your leadership role, balance your ego. Always have it. Don't have too much of it. Watch for those blind spots where you may be relying too much on your ego and not about those teammates helping you reach those goals and objectives. So what I'm going to leave you with as a summary, and I think we have about 15, 20 minutes if anybody has any questions, but I want to give a little summary to wrap up the things to consider in your culture, in your leadership. Don't get yourself in a bad position in that Sith Empire role of making some bad decisions. So I found a video that really summed up the things that could go wrong if your culture is trying to lean towards the Sith. Keep these in mind.
No one will stop us this time.
So that really, I felt, summed up the messages here very well about the things to consider within your own organization as you move forward out of here. We have about 15 minutes left, and so I thought I'd give a chance to people wanting to ask some questions, because really my intent today as part of this presentation was to just have a conversation. Maybe others could provide some feedback too. So I've been in state government for almost 20 years. And so really putting this together with Cheryl's help, we really wanted to just have this as an overview of things that have been experienced through our careers and ways that we've seen that have been successful. So I'm open to any questions. If anybody had any questions for me. Okay, yes?
Yeah, just thought around relationships, because we put a lot of emphasis on the importance of relationships. But when comes to leadership and roles and responsibilities and how that can be put, sometimes find there's unique challenges in building trust in that personal level with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have your own official roles in an organization or whatever that might be,
Mm-hmm.
and how that interplays.
Right.
And being able to work through challenges.
Right. Yeah. Building that level of trust. Like basically, you know, I'm going to ask a couple more questions too, if that's okay. Yeah. So you're talking like you're new to an organization, you have a team that are really helping them build trust with them. Is that where you're going? Like, what are some ways to do that successfully?
I think challenges of the emphasis of the relationships,
Mm-hmm.
and then of course you build connections and that, but then you have to make decisions sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And that what was that statement you made about influencing somebody without really, I forget how that was worded. But I guess where I'm going with that is that there seems to be a balance in
Yes.
relationship building, but yet being able to effectively be in your roles and responsibilities in a work environment to get things done, where you may have a role of authority, let's say, in a decision, you may not come to an agreement.
Right. So yes. So as I mentioned, what I was saying is like that Jedi trick, right? Of not telling them, but you still have a direction in your role to make sure that goal gets accomplished, right? So I think it's a very hard thing to do, right? So I've always looked at it as the trick, if it were, is to make sure people have fun with that work. They feel positive about what they're doing, because then it naturally will happen, right? If you're really supporting them, making it positive for the thing that you need to have happen. And part of it is really articulating where you hope the end goal to be. It's not really telling them how to get there. Like, here's what we need to accomplish, how to be there, and getting them to buy into that, and then have fun, and then giving them that input to be part of that with you. Then they'll have fun doing it, right? A true Jedi can make that happen, right? And it's not an easy thing to do, and you have to balance the, like I said, talking about the ego piece too, right? Ego is a big thing. Like, a lot of us get a lot of experience in what we do, right? So we always have the answers. So sometimes you have to dial that back, even though you may have the answer. You may not still have the best one. So, knowing what your own knowledge is, but still letting that teammate have that voice too. So that way you can really get them to buy in. Because if you're just coming in with your own idea, it'd be just like what you talked about. They're not really going to have the buy-in to go do that, right? You haven't really done that Jedi approach where they bought into it. They love it. They're going to go do it. I don't know if that help. Yeah.
That just seems to be an area.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And influence. I guess what I just heard you say is, if you come in with that experience, maybe taking that step back to be an active listener,
Yes.
as opposed to knowing the answer.
Yep, because sometimes you may already have the answer. And like that video we watched earlier, like, I think Yoda already kind of knew where he wanted to go. He knew what the answer was, but he wanted to see what everybody else brought to the table. Yep, exactly. I mean, you probably already know the answer, but let's just wait to see what the team knows. Because that's another teaching moment too. You can really share their experiences with them and maybe ask some questions knowing you may know the answer at the back, right? And you may find out the answer I thought I knew was pretty good, but actually that's a better approach.
I think the trick there too, though, is if you're going to do that,
Mm-hmm.
then you have to be authentically willing to have been wrong.
Yes.
Sometimes you have to make a decision early on. Am I going to be authentic and let this team come up with an answer? And hopefully it's the answer that I'm leaning towards. Or sometimes you just have to be open and say, I'm going to need to make this decision. There will be other things that we can do together and do that. But like sometimes you have to be able to balance that. If you're going to do it, be authentic with it.
Yes.
And if you're not, then be upfront and say, this time I'm doing this based on what I think.
That's great feedback too. Yes, exactly. Because sometimes you really have to frame all of the things like, here's where the team can give me the input that we need the solution for, but here's the part I already know is the path we have to take is part of that. So they already know kind of where, no matter what, this is part of it that has to be involved. One of the pieces to that too is, it's that doing piece, right? We're going to let you do this part of it. We're going to do this together, and here's the part that we're all going to give input in to get to. So that's a great piece of perspective as well. Thank you. John.
Have you ever asked somebody to be like a team leader, and then they turned out to be a stormtrooper, and you watched what they were doing to the team, and then you kind of regretted it? Or how did you manage that?
Yes. Yes. in my experience, how I've addressed that is really working with that person individually and having an honest conversation saying, hey, here's where you've been successful and here's the things that you're doing really well. And one of the things is making people be aware of what the role really is. I always look at it as making sure they're aware they are a coach. And it's really trying to reinforce that mindset of the coach versus the player. Because I think sometimes people that are in a stormtrooper mentality are used to being the player doing the work. That's been my experience with it. The people that really have that stormtrooper mentality are the ones that they have the answer, they're going to go get it done. And they forget the part to step back for a moment and be the coach and share their knowledge versus imposing their knowledge, if that makes sense. They're going to be more in the weeds with the person doing it versus I'm asking you to be the coach and share your knowledge. I don't want you to be the one physically doing it. And that's some of the differentiations I've had to make sometimes too. As if you're the coach, you're guiding them. You're not actually physically doing the work for the employee. So there's kind of the distinction I try to make too with that. Any other questions?